Okay, here's a super easy question for you. Why does Zoro want to become the strongest swordsman in the world? As a loyal One Piece fan, this should be pretty easy to answer for you, right? Or is it really? See, I recently asked myself the very same thing, and just like you right now, was shocked to find out that we actually have no idea what Zoro's main motivation for his big dream actually is. I mean, we know it for all the other Straw Hats. Sanji wants to find the All Blue because he loves cooking. Robin wants to learn about the true history because she wants to honor the sacrifice of Ohara and take down the world government. Chopper wants to become a great doctor because he wants to help even the sickest people. The only two people where neither you nor me have any idea what their true motivations really are Luffy and, yeah, Zoro, the two most popular characters of the entire series. Luffy wants to become Pirate King, but Oda purposefully doesn't tell us his real reason for it. And Zoro, of course, wants to become the world's greatest swordsman because why exactly? I hope you agree that it's probably not because he needs to stroke his own ego really hard. And while Kuina was undoubtedly a big catalyst for his growth, he already wanted to become the strongest even before meeting her. So what is it that drives Zoro to put his life on the line over and over again for this big goal? And I think you're in luck, because I think I managed to find the key to fully unlocking Zoro's character by doing a complete Socratic deep dive into his character, as deep as no one has ever done before, probably. And let me tell you in advance, I think you will be surprised by who Zoro really is and what he knew all along. But be warned, this video will contain some manga spoilers as well. Okay, so I have to shamelessly disclose here that Zoro is my favorite character, and that the original idea for this video was finding out what made him so incredibly likable and popular. Only by doing that research did I accidentally stumble onto the mystery behind his character. So allow me to guide you through my thought process here. If I held you at gunpoint to tell me what makes Zoro so likable, you'd probably say something like this. Hey you. Me? Yeah, you. Why is Zoro your favorite character? Who are you, like some crazy Sanji fan? What did you just call me? I don't know. He's badass. And swords? Something like that. Zoro is a true badass, no question about it, but there are clearly many other characters that fit the stoic, cool warrior trope that are not as popular as Zoro. So I figured there must be something more to it, something I can relate to that speaks to me on a fundamental level. However, instead of trying to analyze Zoro, I decided to flip this on its head and start with the audience, myself. Huh? Okay, so one of my biggest insecurities is that I personally sometimes feel pretty lost in this vast and rapidly changing modern world that we all live in. And so I asked myself, what's the deeper truth behind that? Well, I guess it's that I don't have a clear path in life. And the deeper truth behind that is that I sometimes feel like I can't do anything. Going deeper, I guess that means I sometimes don't have confidence in myself, meaning that I think I'm not strong or capable enough to change and influence things I want to change. And going one level deeper again, the meaning behind this is that I'm of no use to anyone. It means I don't deserve attention, and the truth behind that is, of course, that I do want attention and purpose. Now, if you like Zoro as well, I think you might be able to relate to this breakdown I just did on myself. Because, as it turns out, Zoro is a character that has a clear answer to each and every one of these questions. Even though he gets lost a lot, he doesn't feel lost. Just the opposite. He has a very clear place in the world fighting next to Luffy. He also has a clear path. He wants to become the strongest swordsman no matter what. And because he has centered his entire existence around this goal, he is actually strong. Strong enough to change things. That means Zoro is confident in his skills and in his ability to always improve. He knows he's strong and that he can help others. And so Zoro is of use to those he cares about. As a result, he gets a lot of positive attention from the people around him, friends and foes alike, who all respect him for his path. And the biggest irony is, Zoro doesn't even need this attention in the first place. He is okay being alone, but even more importantly, he now has people around him that genuinely care for him. So if you share my fundamental insecurities, Zoro is like a cure for that. He's not relatable as much as he's an inspiration and a role model for me. Someone who fits the archetype of the true hero, an ideal person that is very easy to look up to and be inspired by, especially for guys, but for many girls as well. He's basically like a Japanese version of Hercules, the silent but gentle warrior that follows the way of the samurai to defend those who need him and who never leaves this path even in the face of death. Well, except if it's a literal path, then you can be damn sure that Zoro will leave that shit faster than you can say onigiri. And what I realized in this moment is that this is also the root cause for all the conflict between people who like Sanji and people who like Zoro. Now, I really love Sanji, and I love him because he is so relatable. He arguably is the character with the most human and emotional character development in all of One Piece. Sanji is all about growing as a person and facing your own insecurities. Zoro, on the other hand, is not really relatable, but an ideal to strive towards. And while some people prefer to suffer with Sanji and emphasize with his journey, others prefer seeing an idealized but admittedly unrealistic version of what they would like to become. And I mean, that makes sense. Zoro's arc so far in the story has been very focused on getting stronger physically. Otherwise, he has pretty much been the very disciplined, kind-hearted, and loyal person he is right now from the very first chapter that we meet him. Now, I do think that Oda has given him a little bit of a personal arc as well, where being with Luffy and the other Straw Hats has made him ease up a bit more and show more of his human side. Which is why we all love the rare scenes where Zoro laughs or has a really human moment with any of the other crew members. But overall, he is already a close to complete character the moment he joins Luffy. And that brings me back to the original question. Why does Zoro want to become the strongest swordsman? Now, to be fair, I think it's absolutely plausible that this is all Oda ever wanted to do with Zoro. Have him be the perfect Greek god type of character that is easy to look up to, which many people, me included, do already. So you could definitely argue that Zoro doesn't need any deeper motivation or a stronger theme than he already has. But the recent developments in Wano have been challenging that perspective drastically for me. And I want to convince you that there is so much more to Roronoa Zoro than you previously thought. Now, just like many of the other Straw Hats, Zoro didn't join Luffy because he wanted to become a pirate, but because Luffy offered them the chance to reach their goal. And why does he have that goal? Well, thinking about that question made it painfully clear to me that we actually don't know Zoro all that well when you really think about it. He doesn't talk much in general, and the moments where he shares something about himself are very, very rare. So I thought to myself, let's try the same deconstruction technique I just used on myself, but this time with Zoro. Okay, so we know for a fact that Zoro wants to become the strongest swordsman. So what is the deeper truth behind that? Is it because he wants attention? Because he needs someone to really stroke his ego? I think you know just as well as me that this is not what Zoro's all about. So there must be some other, deeper meaning behind all this. When you really break it down, the idea behind the dream is basically, I want to be the strongest, full stop. Swordsmanship is simply the way Zoro grew up with, given that he has roots in Wano, which has now been pretty much confirmed. So swords are basically just Zoro's way of becoming strong, just as for Luffy it's his devil fruit. Now, being the strongest means that Zoro wants to be stronger than anyone else. And the deeper meaning behind that is that he wants to be able to do what he wants or needs to do. There is something he wants to change or defend or take back that he only can do if he is stronger than anyone else. And so, given all the hints we've now gotten to Zoro's connection to Wano and the 𝚲𝚙𝚎 family, I strongly believe that Zoro's real goal is and always has been to free Wano. Now, I'm gonna give you a second to process that. And what better way to do that than try out YouTube's new crazy feature where you can subscribe to my channel by hitting the red button under this video. Did that work? Now, believe me, I totally understand that at first it sounds really strange that Zoro wanted to free Wano all this time. After all, he never mentioned it before. But has he ever mentioned anything about his personal history or goals, like, ever? No, I think that Zoro, just like Robin, is a member of the Straw Hats that knows much more about the world and what is actually going on than they let on. Think about it, doesn't it make all the sense in the world? No matter if Zoro was born in Wano or simply told of his home after being born in the East Blue, he grew up with the knowledge that Orochi and Kaido were tyrannizing his country.
大名の名は𝚲𝚙𝚎 しかし リンゴもまたカイドウの手により廃墟と化しました。
Zoro being related to the royal 𝚲𝚎 family that Ryuma was also part of makes it very likely that he would have a very deep emotional connection to the place, despite growing up in the East Blue. The dojo where he met Kuina is also heavily connected to Wano, and seeing his resemblance to the daimyo of Ringo, of course they would want to keep him there.
お受けいたしましょう。
俺が勝ったら看板ももらう。
負けた時は
その時はここに入門してやる。
Okay, so you might still be skeptical about this, understandably, but just for the sake of argument, let's just assume for a second that this is actually true and Zoro wants to free Wano despite never having been there before. So much of the story suddenly makes sense. Of course he'd want to become the strongest swordsman if his goal was taking out Kaido and Orochi. Zoro joins Luffy in the first place because he sees in him a chance to get closer to Wano and to his goal. Throughout the story, he is the most serious about their journey, and Luffy being a good captain because he has the highest stakes in them actually making it to the New World and Wano, knowing right from the get-go what sort of beasts they're going to be up against. Seeing how far he is from Mihawk at the Baratie, I even made a whole video about that, shows Zoro that he's not even close to beating the man who might just barely have a chance against Kaido. And let me blow your mind about something else. The scene on Thriller Bark, where Zoro sacrifices himself for Luffy, is one of the most famous in the story, something I made a video about as well. Now generally, people tend to take Zoro's sacrifice here to mean that Luffy's dream is more important to him than his own, same as when he asks Mihawk to train him for Luffy's sake, throwing away his honor.
強くなりてえ。火にやられて海にも出られず。
But when you look at it through the Wano lens, Zoro knows that Luffy is the person who will have the best chance at taking on the likes of Kaido and Orochi. He is convinced that Luffy is the one who can actually free Wano and change the world. And so it's not that he's willing to give up his dream in exchange for Luffy's. He inherits his will to liberate Wano to Luffy to carry it on for him. Similarly, how does Zoro know that Ryuma is from Wano? Zoro is clearly fully aware of what Wano is like all along.
刀はもらうが勝負はなかったことにしようぜ。
When they receive the SOS call from Punk Hazard about a samurai, Zoro immediately mentions it to Brook, who is the one who explains it to us. But Zoro knows. He clearly knows. When they pick up Momo and Kinemon on their way to Dressrosa, and Law explains Doflamingo's connection to Kaido, we see... nice. We see the famous dots from Zoro. And what I found really interesting is that Oda did not show us any of Zoro's reactions to all the Wano-related reveals on Zou as well. The only time we see his face is when Kinemon and Momo reveal that Odin has been executed by Kaido. Literally, everyone is shocked except Zoro. He just looks more determined. And then of course we have Zoro and Wano basically being a fish in the water.
血の匂いがするぞ。お前犯人だろ。
All the moments with Zoro fit really nicely into the idea that this is the place he wanted to come to all along, but I do want to pick out a few scenes in particular. For one, we have the entire plotline between him and Hiyori. Seeing Orochi's execution of Yasuie, he goes for Orochi's head right away. Now, if he had grown up with the sole goal of killing this man and then seeing his cruelty in action for the very first time himself, of course he wouldn't be able to hold back and go straight for his head. Now, I do agree that Zoro also always wanted to take down Kaido, but he has decided long ago that he will leave Kaido to Luffy if necessary, just as it happened in the manga. Orochi, on the other hand, I'm convinced will fall to Zoro's hands. This scene here with Hiyori basically confirms this, and I'm pretty sure it's Zoro talking here all the way. And I think this would also fit really nicely with the Japanese legend of Orochi, who was slain by the wind god Susanoo by getting the snake drunk on sake and then killing it with the sword Ami no Habakiri, the sister sword of Enma in One Piece. Zoro, loving sake, having been shown a certain affinity to wind-style attacks and a close relation to Shinto Buddhism overall. Once again, even after fighting Kaido himself, Zoro willingly is putting his life on the line just to keep fighting, drinking the special medicine of the minx. As he says in this panel here, all that matters is being able to fight right now. He can't leave this one to Luffy alone. It's what he has trained his entire life for, and he now has to do everything he can possibly do to see this battle through till the end. When Kaido told the Scabbards that Wano will never see a monster samurai like Odin again, it only takes a couple of chapters until Zoro is called the mirrored image of Ryuma, the most legendary samurai of them all. Zoro says he will have all the samurai of Wano follow him in no time, and indeed he is a true king, being able to use Conqueror's Haki. I'm convinced that very soon we'll be getting a lot of reveals surrounding Zoro's origin, and based on what I just told you, I'm pretty sure that Zoro knew way more about his past and Wano's past than Oda originally led us on to believe. Now, if you truly want to understand Zoro's character, however, you really have to watch my analysis of him here next. Thanks for watching.